Michelle Bishop sitting at home with a wine glass in front of what might be a fireplace?
Hello, everyone. It is your fearless voting rights specialist, Michelle Bishop, broadcasting to you, doing what I'm pretty sure you're doing right now, and that is working from home. Do not put that in your mouth. Do not put that in your mouth. I apologize for that brief interruption. As I said, working from home. So, welcome to the first of our fireside chats. Can you actually tell this is a fireplace behind me? I'm sitting in front of it. There's nothing in this wine glass. Okay,
It's down wine glass.
it's arguably not my best plan. But let's have a real talk, and let's talk about COVID-19 or the coronavirus and what it's currently doing to the 2020 elections. I know that this is something that's throwing a lot of your worlds upside down right now, like it is mine. So let's break it down piece by piece. We're looking at essentially a couple major changes right now that are happening during the presidential primary season. One is that a number of elections are being delayed. As it stands right now, it looks like there's actually a bit of a second Super Tuesday forming around June 2nd, when many of you who have postponed are now planning on holding your elections. Whether or not that holds is anyone's guess, seeing as we really have no idea when this whole thing's going to let up. The other major change is that a lot of states are suddenly talking a lot about absentee voting and vote by mail. So let's just break this down into its major components. First, if you are in a state that's looking at drastically increasing or enhancing its options for absentee voting and vote by mail, let's try to lean into that, I suppose, as much as we can. I'm a big believer that options for voters are a great thing. Some of your states have some more restrictive policies on who's allowed to vote absentee or cast a vote by mail vote. Expansion of that certainly can't hurt. In the time of COVID-19, states that are looking to do this need to seriously think about relaxing some of their laws, relaxing deadlines by which applications are due, whether or not they're going to require an application at all, and relaxing the deadline to actually get those ballots in. They should also look at relaxing some of the stricter laws that some of your states have around signatures and notarized signatures, who's allowed to cast an absentee ballot, opening up that process to whoever might need it at this time that they previously haven't considered. That said, they really have to think about how they're going to make their vote by mail accessible. States that don't have already a robust vote by mail program don't necessarily have some of the options that some of our vote by mail states have, like mobile phone voting, where you can actually vote. Why didn't I have my phone near me for this? Where you can actually vote on your phone, a completely paperless process, or electronic delivery of blank ballots, which are really common in states like Maryland, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, where your ballot can be sent to you electronically. You complete electronically on your device using whatever AT you may need, but at some point in the process, you actually print out and return a paper ballot. The last major piece of that is that states are really going to have to think about whether or not they're set up to process those ballots. On the back end, they have to be able to scan all of them. States that haven't really invested in their absentee or vote by mail and don't collect a large number of those don't necessarily have scanners that are high capacity and capable of processing that many ballots, particularly if they're ballots that were printed by the voter themselves, which means they're coming in on all different types of quality of paper. One of the last issues to think about here is that there's a lot of talk about opening up the emergency write-in ballot. You may have seen the FVAP, which is the Federal Voter Assistance Program ballot, the emergency ballot, the FWAB, the Federal Write-in Absentee Ballot, or something along those lines. This was created by PAVA, that piece of federal legislation that makes sure that citizens who are overseas, particularly our military, are able to cast their ballots. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's emergency and it's write-in, which means it exists electronically, and I'm being assured it's 508 compliant. So that all sounds lovely, but it's write-in in the greatest sense of the word, in that there's virtually nothing on that ballot. The voter who's using it has to be able to write in the contest in which they want to vote, as well as how they want to vote. So voters who are voting for, say, president in November are likely to know that's the race they want to vote on and who both of the contestants are. This could have a major down ballot effect for your voters who can't necessarily name every single race that's supposed to appear on their ballot or who or what they plan to vote for. So while it sounds like a great idea to open it up, and I suppose it can't hurt, we certainly don't want to rely on that. You should actually be talking to your elections officials right now on how they plan to make traditional absentee and vote by mail accessible without relying on the federal write-in absentee ballot. The other thing they should be considering is that it sounds as though there's going to be an influx of federal dollars to the states to help them to expand their vote by mail options and whatever else it is they may need to run elections in the time of coronavirus. If they need to invest in scanners, if they need to invest in a electronic ballot delivery or mobile voting product that many vendors provide, now is the time to invest in that. Quite frankly, they make the investment now and they have it to expand their vote by mail going forward. The other thing you want to consider is that completely closing in-person voting is simply not a smart option. We know that mail voting is difficult to make accessible for all voters, and vote by mail systems don't completely obviate the need for in-person polling place-based voting. In fact, vote by mail states typically have some other option, whether or not that's a limited number of vote centers or the ability to do an in-person vote at your elections official's office. So they need to look at, to the greatest extent possible, keeping some of that open. That's going to be very difficult in a time when locations are not going to be willing to serve as polling places and traditional poll workers are not going to be willing to serve. They have to be thinking about how they can keep as many of those locations as possible open, picking the most accessible locations, and of course thinking about how they're going to keep those locations safe if we're still experiencing the coronavirus at the time of their election. Those are the basic points we have for you, but we also have some resources available. NDRN did a statement on elections during the time of coronavirus, which you can find on tasknow.com if you go to the voting page. You could also go to our new webpage, COVID Central, where we have all the resources we're creating across P&A programs on how they're impacted by the COVID-19 virus and what you can do about that. We've also got some other resources that are not specific to this pandemic that I think would apply here and help many of you. We've been sharing them on the voting discussion forums that you can find on tasknow.com, and I really encourage you to create a discussion forum login, to find the voting forum, and to click the plus sign next to voting to follow that forum. We're talking about these issues every day, and I'm sharing resources, commentary, news articles. You're talking to each other. You don't want to be missing out on that conversation. But you can also find our guide to pro-voter reforms that talks about things like absentee voting and vote by mail and how to ensure they're implemented accessibly in your state. We created this guide well before COVID-19 in response to states just proactively passing some of these measures, but some of what's in there is going to be useful to you, as well as resources from organizations like Vote at Home and other organizations that are traditionally thinking about these issues all the time who might have some helpful resources for you. So I'll say this. Hang in there. This election is happening one way or another, and we're going to get through it. I'm here to help. Please let me know whatever you need. Stay home, stay safe, and wash your hands.